Jay, after your video from yesterday, Cape Kicker asked if there was any footage of my failed 50-foot backflip, and unfortunately there is not. The first thing I said when I came out of the water was, oh my god, if we had that on film I could have gone viral. Anyway, Jay, this is not actually my most embarrassing backflop moment. When I was a senior in high school, I was my school's entire dive team, and I was so incredibly underqualified. However, in our area, not that many people really do diving. So only the people who are actually good at it usually do it, although I was good enough just to kind of want to try it. I did finally make it to the state meet, just kind of by default, and I'm at the state meet with all these people who are actually good at diving. I got up to about my third dive, and I was supposed to do a reverse dive, which is basically jumping forward and turning around like a half somersault and going in dive form. And I didn't rotate all the way, and in front of about 300 people backflopped. Yeah, good times. On Saturday, while I was driving home with my ridiculously sore back, I just started thinking about how great it would be if there was such a thing as teleportation and I didn't have to drive and I could just be home already. While everyone else was sleeping, I was able to think more in depth about teleportation, and I began to realize that it scares me more than just when a wild abra appears. I'm just so happy if anybody gets that reference. For the purposes of this conversation, Jay, I would define teleportation as the ability to transport from one place to another and be able to eliminate the transit time in between. Now, my first negative thoughts kind of started out small. I was like, oh man, well, if without teleportation we wouldn't get to have all the fun that you talked about, like on road trips where you have all the camaraderie. Like on this trip, for example, we were on the way down and we were in our mom's long minivan, and it was hard to communicate from the back of the van to the front. So we downloaded a walkie-talkie app, and we all just had a blast talking to each other through our iPhone. Then, as it was a long drive, I started to think more seriously about the effects that teleportation would have on the world at large. Jay, and then I started to think about all the industries that would then get completely turned upside down by the creation of teleportation. Think about how no longer the airline industry, the oil industry, any type of logistics companies like UPS and FedEx, these would all become obsolete at that point in time. And then let's not forget about real estate. At this point in time, you could live on the coast of Africa and work in Kansas in an office building if you needed to. Then my thoughts turned dark, and I started thinking about how crime could just skyrocket with the ability to teleport. You could literally transport into anywhere, commit a crime, and then be anywhere in the entire world, and it would be so impossibly difficult to track where you were going. So I know that may have gotten a little bit too dramatic, so without quite as much in-depth thought, here's my question of the day. If you made it halfway through your life and all of a sudden teleportation became a reality, how would you feel about the amount of time you spent in your life in transit? Now, I really feel like there's two arguments here. There's the point you made yesterday where just getting to your destination is half the fun, but then there's the other argument as to how much more productive you could be if you didn't have to spend so much time going from point A to point B. So Jay, after thinking so heavily about teleportation, to answer your question from yesterday, I think that my ideal road trip would just be to anywhere, just as long as I got to go. And Jay, that should round off today's video, man. I shall see you tomorrow.